Lions Cardinals. Lions come away with the win, 20-13 in this game. Really good contest throughout. Let's go to Detroit's top 5 graded players in this game. Offensive tackle Penei Sewell's at the top of the list, 84.9. Guard Kevin Zeitler at an 83.1. Tight end Sam Laporta, 82.3. Edge rusher Aiden Hutchinson, an 82.2. And then center Frank Ragnow with an 81.3. Jared Goff in this game, a 73.5. On Arizona's side of things, their only player graded in the 80s, it is safety Budda Baker at an 83.0. Their edge rusher, Zaven Collins, had a 78.1. Wide receiver Michael Wilson with a 77.0. Center, how do you say his first name?
Isn't it Hjalt?
Hjalt? I believe it is. Hjalt Frodholt, 74.3. Got the last name there. Wide receiver Marvin Harrison Jr., a 74.0. And then quarterback Kyler Murray, a week after a phenomenal performance for him, an MVP type of performance for him, came back down to earth a little bit here with a 58.6. Stat that told the story here with the Lions' victory. Dalton, what was it?
Very simple. Jared Goff, 23 pass attempts. Last week he had 58. The best moments of this Lions team and their offense so far has been running the ball and getting behind what should be the best offensive line in football and having balance and not making Jared Goff do everything. To his credit, with less pressure on him to carry it like that, weeks 1 and 2, let's take play action out of it. Non-play action passing grade in the first 2 weeks, 42.2. This game, when they gave him maybe a dozen or so opportunities to just drop back and throw the football, had an 85 passing grade. It's very simple for the Lions. This game, they are not all the way there yet. They beat a pretty good team with a really good offense. They need to play their style of ball and get back to it. The first 2 weeks, they did not do that. Offensive line, Montgomery, Gibbs, work off of that, right? I'm going to stay most impressive real quick with this offensive line. We already know it's a great unit. Decker, Glasgow, Zeitler, Ragnow, Sewell, another one. I can name all 5 just like that.
Yeah,
I cannot do that with every team in the league. The really good ones, you can do that because they're stars. As a unit, 88.1 overall grade in this game. Only 3 pressures allowed. And how about this for a stat? Because it was the highest percentage of the week of any O-line. 39 positive run blocks on 42 running plays. They're just moving people. They didn't score. Look, they're not all the way there yet either. The Lions still have a lot to fix. They did not score a point in the second half of this game. They got ahead. They had the trick play right before halftime, the hook and ladder that worked. But this is how they need to win games. They got back to the roots here, and I think it's going to start looking better the next couple of weeks. Limit Goff's opportunity to have to carry you. He should not, even as good as he is, and as good as he is in clean pockets, he should not have to carry you through football games, right? They got back to running the ball. Montgomery, I believe, had a 100-yard day, a really good day. Win the way that you built this thing, with this offensive line, with this run game, with balance, and they'll be fine. It was a good get back, kind of get right in the right direction game for them. They're not all the way there, but this is how they have to win.
Yeah, and I'll keep the conversation going with just my most impressive, and it's Ben Johnson. You know, after the first couple of weeks, if it felt like they just weren't themselves, sort of to your point there, whether it was how much they were running the ball versus passing the ball, or just the faith in one another. Goff, when he was going up against the Buccaneers, he was short arming the ball a bunch. It's like he wasn't giving his guys a chance.
He should never throw the ball 58 times, ever.
And I think this week, specifically with Ben Johnson as well, the creativity was there. Now, obviously, it's very easy to look creative when it works. There's a lot of creative plays that don't work, and sometimes we yell at offensive coordinators to be more creative, and they're like, I am. It just didn't work. It just didn't work this week. But it felt like that creativity was really on one this week, and they were playing very, very well. The hook and ladder touchdown is beautiful. I mean, that's the stuff that, it feels the Lions or the Chiefs are basically the only teams that are, doing that at this point in time. And if you're going to be in the Chiefs' creative company, I think that's really good company to be in. There was the touchdown pass to Amon-Ra St. Brown where they weren't on the goal line. I think they were a couple of yards. They might have been on the 4 or 5 or something like that. Goff's throwing to his left, and he eventually gets to his left when Amon-Ra St. Brown is running a whip route on the far side. But the formation starts and the play starts. It's trip receivers to the left side. And Goff hikes the football, and he looks to his left. And there are 4 different routes that he could have thrown to at that point in time. And they all were sort of working off one another with the combination and the timing of when the receivers were sort of coming into whatever their window was going to be. Goff ends up throwing the ball to St. Brown when he's coming back on the whip route. St. Brown makes a great catch, but honestly, he had an easier touchdown with a little Texas route from Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield where all he had to do is sort of just like dump it off to him. And that he was so open to walk in for a score because it was Jamison Williams, and I cannot remember who the other receiver was there, but they were both running routes that could have been open, but the fact that they weren't open, they still operated basically as clear out routes. So it's a simple play that you go, wow, great touchdown, good throw and catch by Goff and his number one receiver, Amon-Ra St. Brown. But to me, when I watched that play, it was so much more. It was the layers of when those receivers were possibly going to be open. It was the fact that the routes they didn't have a singular purpose. Sometimes they were multi-purposed routes in what they could have been for that play. That's a brilliant play caller. That is a brilliant play designer. And it felt like we didn't see the fruits of that through the first couple of weeks with Ben Johnson. He reminded us there's a reason why he has been the most requested head coach over the last 2 head coaching cycles in this past game, which was great to see there for him. What's your most disappointing in this one? Because I'll get to my disappointing, and then my stat that told the story sort of works off of that a little bit.
I'm going to just lock into a narrow thing, and I know it kind of plays with what you're doing anyway, but the Cardinals, one of the things that's been kind of happening since the second half of last year, on top of Kyler Murray getting healthy, is their offensive line just getting better. And this week, their 2 guards who had 2 really good weeks to start the year, Evan Brown and Will Hernandez, more of a struggle this week. Just struggled to block DJ Reader and Levi Awuzurike and Aleem McNeil before he got hurt. Just struggling to block the Lions interior. This was a game where you saw DJ Reader make a real impact. Hernandez and Brown, the first 2 weeks combined for a 74.4 grade. This week, 49.4, and when the Cardinals ran between the tackles, 7 carries for 18 yards. Just a struggle on the inside. The Lions' D-line across the board really played well and beat up the Cardinals inside.
So my stat that told, I guess I'll go stat that told the story first, because then I'll get to a little bit of a disappointing. But third down, really. This team was really great on third down through the first 2 weeks. In week 1, they were 54% third down conversion rate. Week 2 against the Rams, 64% third down conversion rate. This past week against the Lions, 1 for 9, 11% on third down conversions. And that goes into another point that I had, which is sort of a complementary stat that told the story here. Kyler Murray's average depth of target. Week 1, it was 6.5. Okay. Week 2 was 10.0. Okay, you're really cranking it up there. This past week it was 13.4. I don't know if Kyler heard the MVP hype. I don't know if it was the fact that he had a bunch of deep shots in week 2, but it just felt like he was only looking for the big plays in this game. And the average depth of target to me shows that. And I believe that him looking deep for the biggest pass, what was the biggest completion that I could make on these plays, to me, he did that too often in this game. And that's why the average depth of target was so high. And that's also, in my opinion, why the third down conversion was so low. That sort of goes into my most disappointing. It's the Cardinals' run game. James Conner, I think, is a good back in this league. Only 17 yards on 9 carries. They did not run the ball as much as they needed to stay as balanced as they needed to. After the game, Jonathan Gannon even said, hey, credit to the Lions. They did a really great job shutting down what we wanted to do in the run game in the second half. And I do agree with them, but it's just got to be more productive there, because Kyler, for as magical as he can be, like what we saw in week 2, if he is simply going for these big-time throws all the time, you're going to leave too many plays unmade. And I felt like that was the fall back down to earth, if you will, for Kyler Murray being at the front runner of the MVP conversation like he was after week 2. So it's just got to be a little bit more of a, what's your word?
Balanced
approach.
That's the word of the day is balance.
Yes.
I try to bring that here, honestly.
Yeah, you and Thanos.
Yeah.
Balance.
Well, that's extreme. That's a little extreme there.
It is.
There's different types of balance.
Was he wrong? He's just trying to save the universe.
Now you're getting into the real argument.
That's why he's a great villain. Because was he really wrong? You don't know.